There are three different methods on how Google Analytics 4 associates events with users. The idea behind is that we want to get as complete view on customer journey as possible across different devices and touch points. In ideal world, we would have this cross-device, cross-platform view on user behavior. Obviously, that is getting harder and harder to do for various reasons that I'm not going to talk about this video, but I want to focus on how GA4 does it. Before we are going to talk about that, we need to define four different components or identity spaces, how Google calls them. And it's user ID, Google Signals, device ID, and modeling. So let's start with the user ID. So user ID is an identifier that you will assign to your users and you will send it to Google Analytics 4. Usually you will assign that identifier when visitors are logging into your website or app, right? So ideally that identifier is shared so that login system is shared across website, app. Obviously, it doesn't really matter what kind of device people are using because when they log in on their laptop or on their mobile, they will get the same user ID because that's connected to their account. Next up, we have Google Signals. So Google Signals is data from users who are signed into Google. So if they are using Google Chrome, they are signed to their Google account and they opted in to share this information. That's what Google Signals essentially is. So Google is using this data to help you with the identity resolution of the users. Obviously, for this to work, you need to activate Google Signals in your GA4 property first. Then we have a device ID. So in case of websites, device ID is the client ID, which is stored in a form of cookie. In apps, the device ID is app instance ID. So this identifier was really similar to what Universal Analytics used. And the last one is modeling, which is only available if you implemented Google Consent Mode. What Google Consent Mode does is that there are these anonymized pings being sent to Google servers, even for the users that didn't opt in for analytics cookies, let's say. And these anonymized events are then used for modeling or modeled user data. All right, so those are the four components. So user ID, Google Signals, device ID, and modeling. So when we come back to the reporting identity, we have three different options here. At the bottom, we have device-based. So in this case, if we select this one, we will just use device ID as an identifier, and that's it. Nothing else is used. Then above that, we have observed, and this one is using user ID if it's available. If it's not, then Google Signals, if it's enabled in the property. And then we have device ID. So if neither user ID or Google Signals can be used, then it will use device ID as an identifier. And the last one is blended. So if we are using Google Consent Mode, we have an option to use blended reporting identity, which uses user ID, Google Signals, device ID, and model data in the end if nothing else is available. So keep in mind, if you have Google Signals enabled and you are using either observed or blended reporting identity, you might experience data thresholding in your GA4 reports. I recorded a video about data thresholding in the past, so make sure to check that one out. The thing about Google Signals is that if you want to connect Google Analytics 4 with Google Ads, you need to enable Google Signals. But I really wish that there was one more reporting identity that wouldn't use Google Signals. So you would have just either user ID or device ID. The thing is that you still might want to have enabled Google Signals for that connection, but you really don't want to use that because of the data thresholding as a part of the reporting identity. The interesting thing about the reporting identity is that it doesn't affect how the data is processed in your GA4 property. And that means that you can change the reporting identity, save it, and it will just affect your data retroactively. So it will recalculate all the user metrics based on the reporting identity that you selected, which is really nice way of experiencing with it and see how different reporting identity will affect those metrics in your GA4 property. And that's it. Hopefully this video made it a little bit more clearer on how that reporting resolution works in GA4. I will include some interesting resources in the description of the video, so you can check that out as well. And yeah, that was it. See you in the next one.